Good afternoon, everyone. I, Suman Ahlawat, Senior Officer, ICMAI RVO, on the behalf of ICMAI Registered Valuers Organization, welcome you all in the E-Charcha on valuation, perspectives, and prospects. This E-Charcha is being organized by ICMAI RVO in association with Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. I extend my warm and gracious welcome to the chief guest, Shri Deepak Rao Sir, General Manager IBBI, distinguished panelists for the session, and all the participants to this E-Charcha. Thank you. I would now request CMA Dr. S.K. Gupta, MD ICMAI RVO, to please give opening remarks to all the dignitaries present here. Dr. S.K. Gupta, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, namaskar, and welcome to this E-Charcha panel discussion, sharing of perspectives on valuation, perspectives and prospects, looking behind with regard to the role and importance of valuation in the economy as a whole, and also its various sectors, and also what potential does it hold for the valuation profession going forward. And for sharing of these perspectives and views, we have a leading panel of registered valuers from India and also valuation professionals from 3 countries. One valuation professional from Uganda, one valuation professional from Ecuador, and one person joining us internationally from Italy. All of them being experts in their respective fields and the dimensions of valuation. We all know that valuation is the pivot around which all economic and financial decisions are taken. Be it a case of mergers and acquisition, be it a case of IBC, company getting into distress, getting pushed into IBC and the CIRP process getting on, or for SEBI regulations, various matters connected with valuation are also prescribed under the Companies Act 2013. Then you have the FEMA for foreign direct investment, you have the income tax, you have the wealth tax, you have the Competition Commission of India, and the banks. The time when they lend the money and they accept mortgage of a property, they got to have a value of that. And also when there is a default in the repayment of that loan and the banks want to take action under IBC or SARFAESI, again at that point of time, they need to have valuation of the assets or the property given as collateral or mortgage. Now, we all professional colleagues are involved in carrying out valuation under all these aspects. We are fairly comfortable and aware about the various approaches to valuation, the tools and techniques that are followed, the numbers, how they are dealt with, how they are manipulated, how they are looked at, how they are analyzed to arrive at an estimate of the value of any asset that you are looking at a given point of time. Of course, from 3 different asset class categories: land and building, plant and machinery, securities of financial assets. But then all of us understand that valuation is not only about numbers. Valuation is not only about financial modeling, but it goes much beyond in terms of creating a script, creating a story behind a business as to what are the prospects of the business going forward, what are the future outcomes likely to be in terms of monetary value, and of course discounted appropriately by using a discount rate to work out the future potential, likely potential of an asset at a given point of time, and that becomes the valuation for the purpose of the users. There are very many different connotations of valuation. You look at fair value, you also have fair market value, you have replacement value, you have synergistic value, you have special value, you have replacement value, and of course you have liquidation value. Under IBC regulation 27 and 35, in each case of CIRP, 2 valuers are required to be appointed for each asset class to provide the estimate of fair value and also the liquidation value. And then that's done by carrying out a physical verification or inspection of the property or the assets which are in position, at the same time applying the best possible approach and the best possible methods by which valuation is required to be carried out in a given particular case. And then, of course, we come out with a valuation report, which is required to mandatorily contain certain contents as provided under international valuation standards, as also guided by the regulations, as also guided by the guidelines prepared by RVOs in joint consultation with IBBI with regard to contents of the valuation report. And of course, we have to also take care of caveats, limitations, and disclaimers, besides assumptions that we would have assumed while carrying out valuation of a particular asset. Now, of course, valuation is the key. Valuation is important. Valuation has been carried out for various assets for quite some time. It's been in vogue for a number of years. But what is changing now? What are some of the emerging trends? The use of automated valuation models, the use of COVID appropriate discounting, COVID premium or a COVID discount, which is a very, very recent origin. And of course, how do we deal with enhanced uncertainty, ambiguity, complexity that we find in the business and economic environment today? We have some practitioners who are going to share their perspective with you all as to how they are looking at these challenges, these issues, and at the same time, these opportunities in the valuation domain, so as to share a common perspective and to also share their observations and comments with regard to emerging trends, the issues, challenges, and the opportunities arising in the valuation domain going forward. We have a very, very learned panel of panelists, 5 panelists from India, registered valuers, all of them, and then 3 panelists, international renowned valuation professionals from international community, Uganda, Italy, and Ecuador. Without taking much of the time, let's get into the straight understanding the perspective from the expert's point of view. But before that, I would welcome and request Mr. Deepak Rao, General Manager, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, to kindly deliver the keynote address and set the pace and set the ball rolling for this E-Charcha today on valuation, perspectives, and prospects. Over to Shri Deepak Rao, sir, please. Good evening, sir. You're not audible, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Please carry it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Shyam Agrawal, CMA Sharma Sahab, my friend, Dr. Managing Director and ICMAI RVO. Today's panelists, I've been told that there are national panelists also. But
no, your voice is not clear, sir. Breaking in between.
it's not at all clear.
Breaking, sir. Not audible.
Can we wait for a minute? Just let me.
Yeah, sure.
Better now?
Yes, please. Absolutely.
I've stopped using the microphone. And perhaps the last 6 weeks, this is for the second time we are having a workshop with ICMAI.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That shows the synergy between a regulator and an RBO, because ultimately there is a link between a regulator and those who are being regulated. That is an RBO. The job of an RBO to bring both the ends together at the frequent intervals.
Yes,
so I think Dr. Gupta is doing an excellent job in that front,
you,
and we are
Thank you,
expecting that we would have some more workshops with you. So this morning when I have gone through the title, the subject of today's workshop was basically valuation, perspectives, and prospects. So the dictionary meaning of perspective, being a student of economics, what I understand is into the problems and probable solutions in a reasonable manner without exaggerating the things. Now, what could be the problems and probable solutions valuation as a profession. As I told last time also, perspective can be different for different people, for different stakeholders. As a layman, I have a different perspective. As an economist, I have a different perspective. As the Government of India bureaucrat, I have a different perspective. Now I am working in a regulatory organization, I have a different. So valuation, what I've read in history is the oldest profession because land revenue used to be the only source of income for monarchs. And then the land revenue was decided on the basis of fertility of the land. And it was really evaluated by a set of professionals who were valuers at the time. And this is something which is written in Chanakya's Arthashastra. Later, when we read the medieval literature, it was Raja Todarmal who set the valuation standards of land and land revenue, Genji system and all during Sheshas era and then Akbar's era also. Over a period of time, the importance of land revenue came down. And then with the Industrial Revolution, we entered into a new economic era. India was not an exception, although we were a little late. But we also had the Industrial Revolution, and then industry became the backbone of it. But in a very short span of time, it changed and we caught another burst of service. Why I'm using it? An important problem is the way things are changing fast is not much of a guide for people. Those who have seen 60s and 70s, they may bail me out that gramophone was one particular device which might have seen three generations. My grandpa used to have a gramophone and my father also enjoyed a gramophone. And then came record players, two-in-ones. But during the last 20 odd years, the way technology has changed, a device became a second generation, third generation device within a span of 5 years. There was something called pagers. Came and then got out of market in the span of a year or two. Then technology, earlier what used to happen that generation means father and son. Now, if you have a younger brother who is 5 years younger than you, then he belongs to an altogether different generation because he uses a different set of technology.
Yeah.
So the important problem is when you are evaluating something, you're not only evaluating tangibles, you are also evaluating intangibles. Technology and branding, evaluation of these two things are going to be very crucial. I still remember in 2006, 2007, I was working for a project of World Bank that was International Comparison Program. Then we were collecting data for a basket of food items. There are certain brands which have got such a deep roots in the market that people didn't understand the difference between the product and the brand. One such brand was Dalda. Actually, the product was Vanaspati, but everybody would call it Dalda only as if the Dalda is the product, not the brand.
Yeah.
I still remember I was in the Naxal belt of Jagdalpur and Dantewada to collect prices for that basket international comparison program. We were working for that. And then I asked the shopkeeper, "Aapke paas Maggi hai kya?" He said, "Saab Top Ramen ki Maggi hai." Then I realized for them there is no difference between noodles and Maggi. So if this is the value of a brand, how we are going to evaluate it? That is going to be really challenging in future because the way we are having companies, startups, and then they are becoming unicorns and all, they may not be having a very strong asset base. Strong in the market in terms of branding. This is one particular issue we all need to tackle. Second is, this is from the administrative point of view. We have seen professions have got organizations to support them. They have developed a lot during the last 50 odd years. Chartered accountants, cost accountants, bar council of India, lawyers and all. Perhaps the biggest challenge from the administrative point of view is that can we bring our valuers at par with those professions? We need to because we have no option. The reason is market is a brand, market accepts a reliable brand, then we have to create ourselves a reliable image for all of us. has been a loosely regulated profession. Commencement of IBBI, with the establishment of IBBI and rules, company laws, and all, at least we have reached the stage where the registered valuers are qualified, their experience has been verified, their knowledge has been tested. The last but not least, there are RVOs who are taking care of capacity building. As I've said, the way things are changing fast is not much of a guide for people. To update yourself, those who have done their engineering. When I meet them, some of my relatives who work in public sector organizations and all, after doing their graduation in mechanical engineering, have changed so much that they themselves they find themselves as a novice in the market.
Yeah.
So, in order to survive us, we have to keep ourselves updated. That is another issue which I wanted to point out. Coming to the prospects. Prospects, plus I think the sky is the limit. Why I'm using the term sky is the limit? That IBBI as a regulator has been trying to expand the scope of valuers, especially the registered valuers. We have written to almost all the financial institutions that as far as possible, one should use the services of our registered valuers. We have elaborated the reasons for it also. Even in the one-to-one meeting, our senior officers raised it. Then it's not just the financial institutions, regulators, other regulators, RBI and all, special preference to IBBI.
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Hello?
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Is it
Sir, your
better
voice is
now?
breaking.
Is it
Yeah,
better now?
better.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So
Yes, sir. Yes,
we
sir.
have written to almost all the regulators also, stating that our valuers are perhaps the best lot in the market because in terms of education, in terms of experience.
No, not audible, sir. Not audible, sir.
Is it better now? I've come
Yes,
closer to
yes.
the system.
Yes, sir. That's better. Yeah.
So I'm really sorry, there must be some technical issue, but what I'm saying is that IBBI as a regulator has written to almost all the regulatory organizations, IRDA, PFRDA, RBI, SEBI and all, stating that our valuers are the best lot in the market. They are best
Yes.
because in terms of education qualification, we have seen them. In terms of experience, we have verified their experience. And then the best thing is that capacity building and knowledge sharing is an ongoing process in our view. Keep on organizing workshops, develop the capacity of the registered valuers. It's not just the regulatory organizations. We have written to Government of India organizations also, and you'll be happy to know that we have got a letter from, not a single letter, we keep on receiving letters from, there was one particular letter from Port Trust of India last week where they requested us to give them a list of valuers who are operating in and around Mumbai.
Oh.
There was a letter from Ministry of Disinvestment where they wanted some expert valuers from IBBI to suggest them about the valuation guidelines and all. So that shows that as far as prospects are concerned, they are really bright. And another thing which I wanted to tell you is that Government of India, through various schemes, are also supporting entrepreneurship. We all know that once we start an enterprise, there is no guarantee of success. Sometimes you may be successful, sometimes may not. Sometimes once you develop the enterprise, you leave it and you form another enterprise. All these cases, valuation becomes important. So expanding market not only expands or enhances the scope for an entrepreneur. Whenever there is a scope for enterprise, there is a scope for valuer also. So in this background, what I would like to suggest is that an RVO as well as a valuer keep on updating or keep on organizing programs where we can share knowledge, because there is enough space for all of us in the market. Market is so big that it's not a 100-meter sprint where you win and I lose. Basically, what I believe is it's a 4 into 400-meter relay race where you have to pass on the baton to somebody else and he can run the rest of the lap.
Yeah.
This is the spirit, and this should be the spirit when we talk about valuation perspectives and prospects, because in order to survive in the market, we have to remain together, we have to share our knowledge, we we have to teach each other, and we have to learn from each other. That's how we are going to survive in the market. And the prospects are really bright, but in order to encash it, we need to build up our knowledge. Thank you, Gupta sir. Thank you all
sir.
the participants.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting the pace of the discussions today. Now, I would request the program coordinator to take the session forward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We rarely get this kind of opportunity to listen to the words of eminent personalities. So let us have the privilege of listening to the distinguished panelists in this E-Charcha. I take this opportunity to invite Mr. Ankit Goyal, is a registered valuer, to take the session, please. Ankit
Thank you,
Goyal, sir.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, all the participants. And it's good to be part of such a forum where we have such eminent personalities from everywhere. And I was hearing Dr. Gupta and Deepak ji share their perspective about valuation. And I think we have come a long way, I personally think, in the valuation profession and the registered value framework. I was calculating that the first registration that happened for any RV under the IBBA mechanism was in June 2018. And today we are 4 years, 3 months almost since the first registration happened. And we have grown to a sizable community of about 4,972 individual registered valuers. And this is a big feat of creating this new professional or new breed of professionals who all have a pre-qualification, who all have passed an examination which has a very, very decent standard. We have 69 RVEs, and that's again a feat because as in any other profession, whether it we call about CS, ICMAI, or chartered accountants, we all like to group together and create larger organizations for the purpose of bringing a total and comprehensive solution to our clients and customers. Valuation has, I would say, evolved immensely in the last few years under this registered value framework, under IBBI's guidance, under the guidance of all the RVOs. And we see so much discussion on this subject now, which was almost absent before that. And we also see that there is a parity and there is a standard, a basic standard, which every valuer is meeting to have a license to practice, to sign the valuation report. I think I need to talk about the importance of valuation in the Indian economy. And we have such a large economy. We are blessed to have so much human resources, so much natural resources in our country. And the same also raises many opportunities for valuation. We look at regulatory valuations. We look at how it is important to derive the correct value under FEMA to avoid any possibility that some foreign individual is taking away an asset which is more precious than what he's paying for, and vice versa as well. We are looking at Income Tax Act, where again the regulation requires the valuer to compute a value, and that value again is used for the purpose of making sure that the tax is not being lost on any investment that is coming in, and where the department or where the government thinks that this is not a capital investment, this should be taxed. We're looking at Companies Act, where again the valuers are in charge of protecting the interests of all the existing shareholders whenever a private placement is happening, and also maybe the interest of the applicant who is buying the shares. We're looking at various other regulations under SEBI, where valuers are a very, very important part of protecting the interest of the investors who are investing in the market, investing in InvITs, REITs, etc., etc. We're looking at then IBC, where again we are looking at one of the valuers being one of the peers to make sure that the values at which these assets are being transferred, or the resolution plans are coming in, or they're sold under liquidation, is a fair value, is a value which is just, which is justified. Neither is it lesser, neither is it more. All these positions or these requirements from a valuer are very, very important. We are, of course, going through a change. Many of these regulatory valuations are still not required to be done by registered valuers. There needs to be more standardization. I've talked about this in the past, that how in case an investor comes in, or multiple investors come in into a company and want the valuation to be done for the purpose of issuing fresh shares, every such issue requires a valuation report from a registered valuer as well as a chartered accountant or a merchant banker. Why should that be? Why shouldn't that be simplified to say that, yes, in case you're entering into one transaction, you don't want to have multiple transactions or multiple valuations under different acts? Because ease of business is also important in case we are looking as a country, as an economy, to bring in investment, uh, bring in funds, bring in equity from abroad, or from have transactions, more and more transactions within the country. We look at how the methods of valuation are rarely understood by income tax authorities when they act as regulators to look at the valuations done by valuers. We ourselves see that in a lot of assignments, a lot of scrutiny cases, assessment cases, there is lack of basic understanding of the valuation methodology followed by the valuer. So as an economy, regulatory valuations or advisory valuations, we need to make sure that we as valuers remain an integral part of the country's economy. We need to preserve the values wherever the regulator thinks that the value needs to be preserved by us. And we also need to assert our independence wherever it comes to a requirement like that. One of the basic conditions of preserving our independence is not to work as a valuer in case the appointment letter has not been issued to us. Several cases where I have seen and myself experienced where some authority has given us a valuation assignment and we have not even received an appointment letter. We have not even, and the moment we assert our independence and give a value, we are told that because the purpose for which the valuation was required has not been through, we are not going to pay you a fee. How can that be independence for the valuer in case the basic fee that a valuer is required to get is dependent on the end transaction coming into conclusion? Where is the independent opinion of the valuer then left to? We are also seeing that more and more people are now finding comfort in getting valuations done from entities or from group of registered valuers, where the registered valuers for multiple asset classes are working together. In many cases, in many cases, the complexity of valuations is wide. You have plant and machinery assets, you have land and building assets, you have other assets in the company. And when you put in all these assets together, and then you say that here is my company, you need a collective effort from all these valuers to give you an opinion. As a SFA valuer, I may not be knowing the intricacies of a plant and machinery, its usage into the business of the company, unless and until my fellow plant and machinery valuer looks into that detail. Similarly, with respect to a land and building asset, I may have no idea with respect to the market values, the conditions in which that asset is lying, the usability of that asset. This is again something that my land and building partner specializes. So the future is, in my opinion, for RVEs, for asset classes working together, because there is no one class of asset which can say that they don't need the other asset class. They're all interdependent. They're all requiring each other. I will now talk about and briefly talk about the challenges that we face asset class wise. With land and building asset class, I think the biggest challenge for land and building asset class is to finding the basis of the valuation reports that they give. I have read several reports where the valuation report simply says that the value of this land is, as per my market survey, is 13,500 rupees per square feet. But there is no basis. The problem is that the basis is not available on papers, because the papers normally have dual values in India. So how do you come at a value? How do you document that value? How do you document the basis of that value? My only understanding from my experience so far is that recording the market survey that the valuer does in his report is the only escape that the valuer has. But recording that, in my opinion, is very, very important. Whatever market survey the valuer has done, whether it has been physical visits, whether it has been talking to multiple people, whether it has been making calls to brokers, looking for the property online, I don't see any other way to justify the 13,500 rupee value that he's dependent on. Because maybe somebody else who does the same market survey will arrive at a value which is much higher or much lower. So it needs to be looked into. Plant and machinery asset class, I think the biggest challenge that we find today there is lack of marketability of second-hand assets. A lot of movement, a lot of development is happening in that market in India, but it is still underdeveloped. That market, developing that market is very, very important for many assets within plant and machinery assets. Maybe you will be able to find a market for second-hand cars, but it is very, very difficult for any plant and machinery valuer to find a market in second-hand plant and machinery assets. That is a very, very important requirement for valuers to derive the correct value. Going at arithmetic calculation, looking at the original cost value, adjusting it for inflation, applying some formulas for depreciation may not give the correct value of that plant and machinery in the market. And I believe that future assets, future value of assets is immensely important. Future prospects of valuation are immense. I personally feel that more and more regulators will start trusting the registered value framework, including banks, for the purpose of valuations for mortgaged assets and for mortgage value or for mortgage valuations. And that is a very big market for valuers. And the idea should be to make sure that we have the right standards, we are thorough with the international valuation standards or any other valuation standards that we need to follow, and that we have an in-depth understanding of what valuation approach is appropriate, what valuation approach is best for the valuation that is required to be done by us. It will change on every circumstance. It will change from one company to the other. You might have very different values for one plot or the other plot. They might be just neighboring plots, but you might have a very different value for both the plots depending on the legal tangles because of the interest created by other entities. A lot of things go into a valuer, into a valuation assignment. So I think I've already exceeded my time. I will request the moderator to take it forward from here. Thank you so much for your patient listening, and it is a pleasure to be here, of course.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. May I request Mr. Kapil Maheshwari, is a valuation professional, to take the next session, please.
Sure.
Mr. Kapil Maheshwari.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Deepak Raoji, for gracing the occasion, and Dr. Gupta for setting the theme.
Thank you.
So, friend, I'm Kapil Maheshwari. I'm a registered valuer under SFA category. I'm also part of Kedan Beltech, which is one of the registered valuer entity. We have I've been given 10 minutes time, and so I'll try to cover some of the key points. One is, what is the importance of valuation in the current economic scenario? So we are, from an economic perspective, we are into a liquidity or a, CRISIL came out with a report 3 days back, which talks about, signs of squeeze or a liquidity squeeze in the market. So next 1 year, 1 to 2 years is going to be very, very crucial for all the registered valuers, because valuations will see a lot of volatility. What is happening is that my short-term interest rates are scaling up. My long-term interest rate, as it has happened in the past, has not really scaled up that much. So we might see some sort of a valuation, sort of a jugglery. And for all my SFA colleagues, yes, this might also mean, you obviously our discount rates where we are applying capital asset pricing model, my risk-free rates changes. So there is a direct applicability of how economic scenario and how the interest rate movements, next 3 to 6 months, what would be the RBI stance and how would it translate into my long-term and short-term risk-free rate? And is there a requirement for us as a valuers now to look at multiple risk-free rates? Because if I'm running a 5-year, 7-year or discount rate, like if I'm running a 5-year or a 7-year cash flow, should I still use a single discount rate for all the time period, or shall we also have a 2-stage or a 3-stage discount rate, depending as to how the short-term rates are moving, and what is obviously the long-term. We would not be always in a high inflationary environment, so obviously long-term rates would. So that is something to ponder upon, and maybe based on a case-to-case thing, yes, one could look at such sort of an opportunity. But yes, that is one thing. The second thing which is emerging globally, and if and what I would also suggest is all of us, because ICMAI RVO, we are also academic members with IVSC, and I keep referring to IVSC website a lot of times, and they come out with very, very good reports. And if you look at, maybe if you go to IVSC website, analyze their last quarter, 3 months to 6 months publications, you would see a definite sort of a trend for them on talking about issues or, valuation implications on the ESG. How is ESG sort of impacting? In fact, they have, beyond now, they've now gone beyond ESG, and they are looking at each and every element of ESG. So they've come up with something called as, human capital, which, to, a full-fledged report on human capital. So this is a trend which globally is sort of catching up. And eventually, in India, while, because we would also, at one point of time, we'll have to catch up with that trend. So it is good to be aware of, what sort of development, how is it sort of impacting the risk if I'm, and, is there a different categories? So, if I'm using an income approach, how is my risk getting categorized? If it's an ESG compliant or a non-compliant ESG, should there be a mechanism? Because, IFC has a lending, as a lending partner, if IFC is a lending partner, all the banks who have borrowed from IFC have to show a deviation if the, the company to which they have lended is not ESG compliant. So that has to be reported. Can that really trickle down to our valuation reports? It will take time, but these are, global best practices which would eventually, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year down the line would evolve in Indian market also. The third thing, which is, obviously, which has been talked about, is technology. Deepak ji also talked about, how technology and how, how technology is shaping up. And so I think technology definitely, from a valuation perspective, whether it be through an AVM route or it be through, some other product route, there is going to be, 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, or maybe 1 year with Basel III, once it gets implemented. Real estate or the mortgage portfolio is something where there would be a lot of requirement for tech, because Basel III comes in, your mortgage piece has to be mark to market on a much frequent basis as for all the banks. Now that for individual 5,000, so Ankit ji just mentioned that we have, touching sort of 5,000 valuers, and I believe the real estate land building valuers would be around 3,000 out of that lot. So virtually impossible, for 3,000 odd land building valuers to do some sort of, complete sort of a mark to market analysis for the complete portfolio. So technology is, yes, definitely is going to be, has to come up. The regulators also shall think about it, because, how do you implement mark to market or Basel III norms, where you would have a quarterly reporting or a quarterly mark to market for all the entire portfolio which the bank would have. So that is something, broadly on the valuation or the economic impact, some of the things which are sort of emerging. I'm coming to quickly on the challenges part now. I think one of the bigger challenge for us is that we have, 60, 70 RVs. Not all the RVs are all the 3 asset classes. So I believe that number would be 30, 35 odd. I'm not counted, but yes, that would be something. Now, the challenge is how do that 40, 50, 60 RVs and 5,000 odd valuers, the bigger challenge is those 5, the balance individual valuers. And we converted ourselves to RV because of that reason, but, the ability of an individual registered valuer to take up large projects, because that was a challenge which we were seeing. And we were being told by, the resolution professionals or whoever the concerned party is that, yes, obviously, the scale was an issue, and which sort of instigated us to move to an RV. But I think there has to be a mechanism, as, where even an individual valuer can collaborate with an RV, because, both of them are registered valuers. So there would, but, to take up large projects, something like, a big bazaar type. It's not really where even RVs like us are not sort of capable of, delivering that sort of scale. So even RVs might have to collaborate when you have to do some sort of an inventory tagging for the entire portfolio and other stuff. So there needs to be some sort of a collaboration, maybe on the model of an IP and an IPE, maybe something different for registered valuers, where individual valuers also get a chance to participate on those large projects, maybe backed by an RV to an extent. So that is one big challenge. I'm just discussing some of the macro level challenges, so rather than at an asset level challenges. The other, which I've been always talking, is the working capital challenge as a registered valuer, which we face. So we would always have, our pending payments. Now there has to be some sort of a mechanism, sir, that, some sort of a trades platform or an MSME discounting platform. I think that would be very, very helpful. So those are some of the challenges. The other challenges, data insufficiency and all, as everyone is aware. IBB has also worked on information utility. So I think that are more like a micro level challenge. And lastly, just in terms of why financing or working capital becomes important, just in terms of concluding thing, what is the future? So while the future projects are, prospects are definitely good, that is the reason all of us have enrolled ourselves into registered valuers, and we are, pursuing the profession. So obviously we are hopeful and we need to be optimistic about the profession. And there is still 5,000 people. So there is still a lot of demand supply gap, I can say. The supply of valuers is still much limited, unlike a lot of other professions where, professionals would run into multiple lakhs. So I think that still that gap is good, which is good for the community as such. But what is also important is for us to have that financing thing in place, is that currently many valuers are, valuation is only one of the service lines for them. Now that needs to change. And that can only change when it becomes so much of rewarding for us that, valuation becomes the only service line for us to pursue. Right now, an auditor or chartered accountant may be doing 10 other things along with valuation, and it is just one service line, or so this has to, for it to really become or grow to that profession, I think that is something where we need to build it as a professional or, a single service line offering for all of us. That's where we can contribute 100% of our time, effort in there. Deepak ji also talked about intangibles and its emergence. I think that is also very, very relevant, because that is something where the future holds. I think the intangibles contributes nearly 75-80% of S&P 500 market cap today. So, if you go by that perspective, yes, growing, whether it be startups or, companies which are asset lights are much higher in market caps and value. So those intangibles needs to be definitely identified for. We are moving from a tangible, valuation being a tangible heavy profession to an intangible heavy sort of a service line. And all of us shall be sort of getting prepared for it. But yes, the future looks good. We need to stick on and give 100% of our time. So thank you. I think I'm within my time. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Sir,
you. Thank you
with
very much.
respect to the working capital thing that you were mentioning, I guess there are a lot of banks and NBFCs which are providing credit limit to professionals having COP. So that is something which is there up to say 15 to 20 lakhs that they provide.
Right. Sir, the challenge which I have seen was that, as you grow big, you have a balance sheet, then only they would provide. What about person, an individual like me who was under employment and left employment, started into valuation as a profession? I have no balance sheet.
No, they provide to practicing. If you have a COP, be it a CS COP or a CS COP, then there are a lot of NBFCs and banks which provide up to, depending upon your experience. So they categorize it into say 5-year experience professional, 10-year experience professional and all. So based on that, they provide certain credit limit, and given the kind of work that we do, maybe a 10 lakh limit should be a decent limit.
Yeah. 10-15 lakh sort of an OD limit is what
they provide. They provide. In fact,
I think that would be good if it can be circulated, because I found it very challenging. You have a lot of
that is
because we tried with few banks, but then they had certain conditions and balance sheet requirement which
please check with Bajaj Finance.
Right.
So might be your number is in DND and they have not reached out to you.
No. Bajaj Finance do reach
Yeah.
out for, but I think they are the most active
Yeah.
lenders.
So
Everyone would be getting 1 or 2 calls.
no, in fact,
every day
they
from
are
Bajaj.
willing. They provide limit up to 40 lakhs also.
Okay.
Okay.
So do
Interesting.
check with them. And
Fine.
sorry, I'm interrupting in between, but
No.
just to give you some idea.
Fine. Thanks for the information. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you very much, sir. Now I would like to invite Mr. Harshad Deshpande, is a registered valuer, to take the next session, please. Harshad, sir.
Thank you very much, madam. Thank you, ICMAI RBO, for arranging this E-Charcha and also inviting the eminent, officials from the IBBI. Thank you to Ankit and Kapil for, very nice interaction we had. So I think Ankit has really highlighted points, and in fact, I would just like to share 1 or 2 points which perhaps I have noted. Being a SFA valuer, so what I feel is that I will be more focused on what I do. That is, I'm the SFA valuer. So this is a small introduction, of course, which I will just keep on.
Yeah.
And see, this is the one of the dynamic asset class. So example that after this Ronaldo's the Coca-Cola lost something like $4 billion. So just recently we also seen that this one tweet from this Elon Musk, it can create damage in the share price of companies like Twitter or the even cryptocurrency prices. So it is the one of the most dynamic asset class, and I believe that this dynamism is going to go more and more as the things are going to move on in the valuation domain. So, as all of you are aware that this enactment came in the form of the Companies Act 2013. So, in which this SFA, the security or financial asset, as a evolved as a separate asset class. So earlier, when we were talking about the valuation was predominantly mean the valuation of plant and machinery and land and building. So this is the after this valuation rules and these amendments, this has emerged as a separate class. And as this SFA, although it is not defined in the valuation rules, it is being perceived as kind of a residual asset class. Of course, it is not it is last but not the least, because more or less we know what do we mean by plant and machinery, what do we mean by the land and building. So kind of what the other assets which doesn't fall into this territory generally being classified into a category called as a SFA territory. Then I think Kapil touched upon this point that technological advancements are leading to SFA as one of the significant asset classes. For example, we have seen a asset like companies like Zomato or Uber, or there are so many such examples. I think one more example that recently we have seen is the Byju's, of course. So these are the things which are going to increase the dimension of valuation from the valuation of tangible assets or properties to more of an intangible, and days to come I will also perhaps see that the other assets which perhaps human assets or even the ideas. So days are not far that when we are going to talk about ideas being valued, that what is the value of this particular concept or methodology or technique. So these days are not so far ahead. That is what I feel. So we as a valuer obviously has to be aware of all this advancement happening, all the contemporary knowledge what is happening around us. So that is what is going to make an impact, and that will continue to do so in long run. So this SFA as a category, it's always hands-on for consolidation, because I rightly pointed out our earlier colleagues that a business has to be valued from all the dimensions. So we have to join the hands, and there is a lot of crossovers between the asset classes. So obviously, as a SFA valuer, there would be a lot of challenge for all of us to consolidate and make it as a business valuation or an entity valuation. So that is what the role perhaps the business industry and regulators expects from us. And one more sub point of that is the synergy effect. So taking a standalone price of the land and building and plant and machinery and SFA, and taking all three as a together. So that is what definitely makes huge amount of difference, and that is what has to be consolidated when we doing a valuation as a SFA. So these are some of the points which perhaps I wanted to highlight. Talking about future, all of us are very much aware which that value or bill is the future. So we are just expecting that value or bill to become an act, and once that become act, I've just listed out some of the acts which are going to be there. May it be the case of a Banking Regulation Act or Income Tax Act or SCRA or IRDA or FEMA, SURFACE, what all whatnot. So the valuations would be required under various statutory things, as well as what I find is that apart from this rules and regulations, as the profession is developing, I'm seeing that a lot of inquiries and a lot of different kind of assignments are coming up to the valuer. Just to cite an example, I'm doing one case for a valuation for one of our clients, which is located in US, and they want to get divorce, and they want a valuer's report for a separation. So this is what perhaps going forward the role of a valuer would be. So which I am, of course, this is not being regulated or this is not being coded anywhere in the law, but this is the requirement of the day. This will keep on continuing. And I'm sure that our challenges, what we are facing, these challenges would be replaced by some other challenges, but the challenges will keep on coming, and we as a valuer has to be on our toes to address such challenges, convert into a professional opportunity, convert into SOP, a standard of practice, and the methodologies, and pass on this knowledge. I think Rao sir already mentioned that this is like, it's a marathon race. So you have to just pass on this baton to some other player, and this journey will keep on continuing. So I think this is what I would like to say. And thank you very much again, ICMAI RVO. I think under the leadership of Dr. S.K. Gupta, we have done a lot of things in the technical standard. You must have seen the guidance notes. I think he's also for one more publication is the best practices. That is what is coming. So I'm sure that Gupta ji during the sessions or at the end of sessions also will update you various activities which are being undertaken by ICMAI RVOs, and of course with the joining hands with the other RVOs and IBBI. I hope that this profession will, as Ankit said, that it's just 4 years, but it has moved a lot and it will keep on moving forward ahead. So thank you very much for the time and patient hearing. So I request Organise to take it forward.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Now may I request Mr. Manish Srivastava to share your views, please. Manish, sir.
Hi, everyone, and a very good evening. And that's been a great listening. Like instead of speaking, it's been at times been great to listen to other people, and that's been a great view that being shared today by Mr. S.K. Gupta ji, Deepak Rao ji, as well as other speakers, Ankit, Harshad, I've been listening to, and the points that being covered by the speakers that really being thought that need to be given. And whenever we say like the question like what as a valuer, what is the role I been playing? Whether I been just looking at there being certain regulatory thing that required to be done, or because the regulation has provided that, okay, because there is a Companies Act, now you being a valuer and you need to do the valuation under the Companies Act. Is as a valuer, I see myself only in this particular thing, or there as being placed by Harshad as well. Like there may be like a lot of things where business value need to be determined, and there's nothing like compliance, but maybe somebody is taking a divorce, and what is the value, underlining value that need to be judged, or there may be some person who suppose may have started some business, and he being acting as a CEO of the company, and he ran the company very well, and then someday in an accident he died. what should be the compensation package, suppose he need to be paid by the company, because of him, the company has grown to such a level. Okay. So there may be a lot of like practical things that comes into being rather than just being on the regulatory side. So, and the true value or the value addition, when I say, is more when you talk about more on the business side rather than just being on the regulatory side. Of course, we being the registered valuer, at times we need to do valuation based on the for the allotment of shares for different purpose. But again, I would say when I talk about like the type of the assets that been there, of course, everything is moving toward the asset-like model. More things happening on the intangible side. Now, the role may be at times somebody may come and say, boss, you need to find the value of my patent. Now, I not being an engineer, I can only look into the number terms. I may be a finance guy. So there may be the like a team that may be required. Suppose somebody who being an engineer who can judge, okay, this being the technology factor, okay, this may be the usability of that technology. Or suppose even if you have patent, but because this technology has become outdated, so there's no value to that, link to that. So there is a need like of interlinking with each other, interlinking of the knowledge that we possess with each other, and that is how we'll be able to judge the things together. If you look into like a brief background I would provide, like if you look into the venture capital industry, what is happening? There being a limited partner, the limited partner is placing the money to the general partner or the venture capital fund. They being now placing the money to the startups. The question is the valuation when it being decided that, okay, this is the value of the company or this is the value of the stake. The valuer was not in that particular room when that valuation being decided. Later on, it being asked to us that, okay, sir, this is the value being decided, and now you look into like various method and you apply some magic numbers and find that this is the value based on certain projections that been placed. Okay. At times, it is not just looking at the numbers. I just look into future forward numbers provided by the management. The more important role that required is we need to understand more into the industry and the dynamics that is happening in the market. What sort of industry we're talking about, how that industry being run, what is the margin that being there, whether this going, there being the point, like people say, so many companies, 100 companies have become unicorn companies. If I ask like this, the status of being a unicorn is these companies are fundamentally good companies. Is the per unit metrics of these companies are perfectly fine? Is they not going to bust in the time to come? So even by writing the report as a valuer, because the valuation being decided and I've been writing this report, at times it haunts the valuer that whether what is happening, whether fundamentally the company, what I'm talking about, the value, this is going to be the real game or not in the time to come. Okay, so there may be the thought that comes into mind, and it creates a certain sort of a challenge as well. But still, we need to understand like how the industry and the dynamics is moving. I recently like attended one of the event in which Microsoft director has given a presentation on the metaverse, like how it's going to change the world, what is going to be 5 years, 7 years down the line, and how the marketing, how the purchaser will be purchasing the products, sitting in a room and having the entire like the virtual reality sort of thing. Okay, so these are the new things and the new areas which are emerging. 3D printing, like the entire building will be developed based on the 3D printing. Then there being artificial intelligence, everybody's talking about. A lot of the things that being there, like people are raising the money from the market, but at the end of the day, what is happening, the technology is something which has the value in the present sense, or if we talk about the startup world. So more important, and the more, whenever we need to value, we need to understand like what is the technology behind that, how it will disrupt the entire market is. So these are the certain things that I personally believe that need to be looked at regarding the future challenges. When I say challenges, maybe yes, of course, the data, everybody knows that what sort of data you get. You raise a number of questions, you want these information. At the end of the day, the type of the data that you receive, yes, of course, that is as at times, the company may be a startup company, may not be able to provide you the data. You need to help them to make them understand, like, okay, this is the type of the data that being required. We can provide like certain template as well, that okay, these are the template which need to be, because a certain sort of a helping hand that may be required at that point of time. Future prospect, if I talk about, yes, of course, it's being the sunrise segment, and that is the challenges will going to be more in the time to come. The greater the challenges that will be, the greater the value the valuer will be able to get in the market. So the entire market is changing, the entire dynamics of the business is changing. There used to be the time, if I remember, that we go to the bank and we say that I need a demand draft, and the person says that, okay, you come after 2 days time. And that is the how I talk about like 15 years back. And now what is happening? You just go and get it done in just 5-minute time in a bank. That is how the entire thing is changing, and that is where the more value addition going to be, and whosoever will be creating more value, that will be creating the value to the entire stakeholders. So when I say valuation is a bloodline of any business. Of course it is. We need to look into the economic value that may be there, and that need to be deciphered with. And because if you look into the current market trend, yes, there's a lot of volatility as already being suggested by the speakers, like Mr. Kapil, like there's a lot of volatility, the interest rate going high. So there is a need to readdress or reassess our working based on the current market. Like we are being taken like, okay, this being the risk-free rate, this being the CAPM model, but what is the further risk that being there based on the market? So that need to be looked at again. So I'll not go much further. That there's a time limit, but still, this is one of the most dynamic field, and this is a field for the people who are passionate enough. And until and unless I'm not being passionate enough, somebody is saying that, okay, somebody may be a chartered accountant doing the audit, doing the accounting work, and then also doing some valuation. So there's a need that people who being 100% devoted towards the profession, people who do only look into, okay, this is a stream which I love, I being passionate, and yes, of course, the reward are many. It is not like people say that, sir, isme fees nahi milta hai. This is all being saying, but when we do the good work, we get the fees as well. The client understand. So there may be different class of the client as well. So we need to create our class. So accordingly, the fees you get what the class you belong to. So that is there. So I am not taking much time, ending over here. Okay.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite Mr. Maurizio D'Amato, a valuation professional from Italy, to share your views. Mr. D'Amato,
Welcome,
please.
Mr. D'Amato. He's joining us from Italy. He's a renowned valuation professional.
Yes, I'm a valuation professional, and I'm also a professor of valuation.
Yes,
at Technical University Politecnico di Bari. And can you listen to me carefully?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, I do not have a presentation, but I have some. I would like to focus your attention on some points, some focal points that can be addressed after the 2022 International Valuation Standard guideline. A general premise is that there are several international standards, as you know. The most important is International Valuation Standard, RICS, and TEGOVA, and other standards. But above all, it's very important for you to protect yourself and to protect your economy with your own standard that I strongly suggest. So I would like to propose you to push you to go on your Indian standard in compliance with the international valuation standard, because sometimes the standards are also a way to colonize big market, especially your market is a very important market. You must be careful about this strange movement of big corporation, big consultancy. I would suggest to focus on your specific reality because you are Indians and you know what happens in India. First things, there is a small profile of a little war between automated valuation methodologies and valuation in person. This is probably you don't feel this relationship, this struggling between the two, because as I understood, I follow the words of Ankit Goel. Seems that you do not have a very important record of previous valuation and price. But I'm sure that before or later it will arrive also to you. There will be Indian organization that will organize price, and you will have this data available in a free way or with a small fee. This happens all over the country and will happen probably also in India. At this moment, there will be a sort of problem because also AVM could replace ideally the works of a valuer person. And this is the first focal point that I will give you. So artificial intelligence, AVM, automatic valuation methodologies can replace the work of valuer in person. I think no, but in some banking system, this is happening. So this is a sort of first scenario I want to give you before going on. Second point I would address. I heard by several persons who talked before me about the future. The need of understanding the future, of understanding the market, understanding the economy. Well, there is an interesting change, little change in international valuation standard, because since 2017, international valuation standard, introduced cyclical asset. It's a strange definition, but if you go on and read your international valuation standard, you find this strange definition. Cyclical asset is a specific asset that is specifically address condition whose price is conditioned by cyclical property market cycle or business cycle. And this is very important because normally we are in the habit of capitalizing with direct capitalization a normal and constant rent. In this case, they propose something different. If you were curious about this, I have an article of mine. Just a moment. You can download here. And okay, if you want, go on this. There is an article of mine on so-called cyclical capitalization. Third point, integration between HBU and OP value. Normally, in the traditional definition of highest and best use, if you read the definition of highest best use in the past, before 2017 and 2022, highest and best use was calculated on the real actual possibility of transformation of a land. So if you cannot do something, this does not exist. In the edition, from the edition 2017 and 2022, a sort of traditional British OP value has been included inside highest and best use. That means that the valuer should also calculate if there is something ongoing in land regulation or plan regulation. So if there are some possible transformation of land, this should be included in the valuation report. I ought to be clear, but I don't know if you understand my English. Fourth point, mortgage lending value. To be honest, we don't know so much about mortgage lending value. There are some countries that has a specific law defining what is mortgage lending value. We are talking about Spain, Italy, Germany. There are other countries, like Britain, for example, that do not have any definition and mainly calculate mortgage lending value, according to market value. So, at the conclusion, this is another challenge for us, because we don't know exactly, to be honest, how to calculate mortgage lending value. And we need to enforce our procedure in order to have a more prudent value when we deal with bank lending process. You had in the past several scandals. We had, as Italian, in the past several scandals. And one of the most tricky problem was the valuation in the lending process, the valuation of real estate assets. Another point I would like to submit to your attention is the force value and liquidation value. You know the difference. Liquidation value is for a property that must be sold without compulsory time. Forced value is a property sold with compulsory times. They are not basis of value. It is well known that they are only a form of market value without the so-called time on market. This is very important because we do not have, even in this field, homogeneous procedure to calculate this. We have several different kinds of procedure, and unfortunately, real estate market is strongly conditioned by this. And we have a very different situation along the world. For example, in Australia, you have forced value that is even greater than market value, because it is a big market and all investors want to buy this. In other countries, like in Italy, for example, forced value and liquidation value normally are below to the level of market value. So this is another situation quite difficult, an open question for valuers, because we do not have strong methodology except the traditional, the observation of what happened, the personal expertise of the valuer that cannot be included in the, let's say, traditional panorama of methodologies. There is another point I would like to stress, and is the final point, is the organization of information. Organization of information, I connect to Mr. Ankit Goel, is very important. Recording information and passing from paper information to electronic information is a milestone for a development of a serious and professional real estate market. This must be done as soon as possible and must be done in different way, even from private initiative. No need to wait for the government. We have a case here in Italy where a group of professionals decided to develop some informatic tools, informatic information in Excel, and create a circle of persons accessing to this small database just to exchange in a rapid way information. So I think that this is very important for the development of the country, but this is also important for the development of professional procedure. Until you rely on unrecorded information, you will be your professional market will rely on personal expertise and personal contact. Let's say this. This happens everywhere, not only in India. In Italy, we are the professor of professional contact. We created with mafia with personal contact. So, but switching on electronic information and switching on the information available, free, open, low cost in informatic with informatic data, you will be available to open, I hope carefully, your market also to private investors, and to demonstrate to took among the big panorama of investors, the right investors, investors like pension funds. They do not ask you enormous return, but they want just to have stable and real return. So this is some points that I wanted to stress you coming from International Valuation Standard 2022. I would also add that I'm really honored to cooperate with you. I was not able to provide what I wanted to provide, a course on IBM, but unfortunately, when the things will go better, I will be able, and I will also with my Indian friends together to have the opportunity to share some ideas and my knowledge.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Di Almato, for your very, very broad international perspective on the future and the perspectives on valuation. We have been talking to each other for organizing a course on automated valuation models, in which Mr. Di Almato specializes, and he has agreed to do the course for us. Very soon, all the participants will hear from us. We shall be launching a short course on AVM, which is going to be the future of valuation. And this course will be delivered and led by Mr. Di Almato. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. We have one more panelist from Italy, Mr. Javier Ayala. Is a valuation professional. May I request Mr. Javier Ayala to share your views, please?
Your voice is not coming, Xavier.
Okay, I think that's it. Can you listen to me now?
Yes, please. Fine. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thanks very much for inviting me again to share this views related the perspective of our profession. Just one minor thing. I'm not delivering this views as Italian. I'm Ecuadorian, really, South American.
Okay.
So just this minor thing, but
yeah, fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
You're from Ecuador. You're from Ecuador, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you.
Right. What to say relating valuation? I think one of the challenges we all are facing in terms of professional development and the profession itself development regards the professionalism and to try to find out the best way to basically deliver the valuation. So this is because, as you all know, we all know, and I agree also with Maurizio and his previous speech, the importance of valuation within the economies and financial markets is huge, as most of the activities in terms of economy and finance go through valuations. For example, valuations are used to support financial activities such as secure lending, by valuing collaterals. This is something that Maurizio covered just a few minutes ago. Valuation is also important to support business decision making. Valuations are used for the administrations and management, companies management, for them to take decisions, make decisions really. Evaluations are also important for users and users decision making. When you deliver an evaluation report, then the reports must, or at least should be comparable, reliable, and transparent. So by achieving these qualities, then you will be delivering high quality product in terms of valuation reports. Valuations are also important, or basically have an important appliance in rural development. I don't know if you've heard recently several VPOs are talking about secure, not secure lending, but unregistered land. This is something which has been addressed by the UN also, which is very important, and it finds its appliances in several jurisdictions, such as mine, for example. Valuations are also relevant and extremely important for stock markets, as they support some decision making within the markets themselves. Also, valuations are important to be able, in order to be able to assist businesses and or assets in estimating the added value from the environmental, social, and governance practices, which is basically the ESG we were discussing today. And depending on the developments, social impacts, social value, and social assets, which is something the not regulated standard sectors are going through in terms of developing standards for valuing or measuring the value of social impacts from social assets. What's the perspective from a point of view in terms of valuation? I think it's extremely important to continue on promoting principle-based standards. This is, as we've discussed in previous presentations along with you, this is because the idea would be to deliver a comparable, reliable, and trustable valuation reports. So the idea of being able to compare the information from a report to another is extremely important at the moment, or since the moment that you need to be able to measure the impacts of on the values really from several aspects really. For example, decision making, markets, market volatility, and this is I'm going to make a bracket here to refer to what Maurizio said to regarding the prudential value. That's, for example, one of the reasons why it's extremely important to be able to compare the valuation reports. To contribute developing the valuation profession, that's something extremely important also, and I think your BPO has been doing very great work by promoting these spaces of sharing, knowledge and experiences across the world. Actually, you see, I'm speaking from Latin America, so you see, that's something really important, because that assists everyone to get a broader idea about the importance of the profession really. Also, it's important to welcome new challenges. I think we all like challenges, but we need to be able to welcome them in the best way in order to address them technically and professionally. Also, to continue on performing valuation according to general standards. You see IBS as the global standard is a reference which might be used. That depends on the jurisdictional realities, and also the hotspots in future are ESG, as I said before, and Maurizio talked about in the past, the AVM also, and internally generated assets, which depending on the development of the profession in terms of how it's been, if it is a young stage, medium stage, or a mature stage, is something which could be important to continue on working through. This sketch, or this basically this valuation process, could be something that we all should try to remember, as this is the basic evaluation process, and that the principle-based standard. So this is in order for us to ensure comparability. You see, these are the minimum requirements we should to accomplish when performing evaluation. Of course, there might be different considerations to be done, but however, these are the minimum requirements we should try to achieve. Why? This is because it's extremely important to accomplish with the core evaluation principles, which are those I just presented to you quite a few minutes ago. This is because this is going to ensure transparency, which is extremely important when comparing evaluations, you see, and this is in order for us to be able to measure the impacts of upon the value from different actions. As I said before, comparability, they are linked together. I mean, transparency and comparability are two of the qualities that evaluation report should ensure, particularly for those auditing evaluations or performing valuation reviews. And this is because, as a consequence, it's important also to ensure reliability. It's also important for us to continue working towards professionalism, as I said before, in order for us to deliver high quality products to our markets and or our end users. And of course, to ensure consistency as well. The perspectives, in terms of perspectives from the best practice point of view, I've basically set up these 6 important things to be done, or things to be taken into consideration from all of us as valuers and as VPO members and or VPO leaders. It's important for all of us to consider the evaluation not as an activity, but as a profession, which is what it is really. We need to take into consideration that the quality of the inputs are extremely important. This is something that, as Maurizio said before, the IBS is trying to address. So hopefully they came up with some of important developments regarding the data quality and recording, and how to the best way to suggest how to deal with data information by recording, keeping adequately records, and so on. The basis of value, Maurizio mentioned previously that prudent value and liquidation value are terms and development in terms of defining what they are adequately, particularly because of the appliances, especially for banks appliances with also experienced several issues relating market value using for secure lending. So the idea of having something in between market value and something prudent, that could be the word. It's important. So from the best practice perspective, these bases of value or these definitions are very important and something that we should expect to deal with in the near future. To foster the evaluations within a reliable and comparable, trustable basis, this is, as I said before, and we've been discussing with you today and previously, the importance of comparability, reliability, and trustability in valuation. So the best practices are at the order of the day, and we should try to continue on working towards the promotion of the uses of high quality practices in valuation, to reinforce evaluation as international profession by implementing, using, and providing the inputs to global standard setting. It is important for those working overseas or having overseas customers who are searching for reliable valuations performed under best practice. It's extremely important the uses for recognized best practices in order to be able to compare, not only because of the fact that you're able to use techniques that we all know, for example, replacement codes and so on, depends on the type of asset and the purpose of the valuation, but to be able to compare in the future, if you need to, or if you were to address the impact on the value, upon the value related to the market volatility or market action and or decision making, then there would be, or there should be, the possibility for end users to be able to compare this information, and also to collaborate with professional development by providing inputs. This is extremely important, as you know, to work within a collaborative basis is extremely important. This is to assist the profession to get into development level quite quick, and it might ensure quality basically by gathering information from all the evaluation stakeholders. So an interaction between different stakeholders in the market, VPOs, professionals, perhaps academic institutions, is extremely important to ensure high quality standards. And that's what I have. What else I have to add to this presentation is that it could be ideal for all of us to work along together in developing these things. I mean, in terms of developing the profession, developing consistent standards and or regulations. There may be circumstances and jurisdictions where the regulations are not consistent enough. So that may result in different risky issues. So this is why it's extremely important. I have prepared this presentation fairly quick for you today, and sorry about that. Because at the moment I am attending an annual meeting of the IVSC, so I've been a little bit demanded by the program. But I'm really happy to have passed on this information to you and to share it with you. And if there's any question, anything you'd like me to go through, I'd be really happy to do it.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in your
Please.
in your presentation, you
Yeah.
said that there is a social impact in valuation.
Well, that's something. Sorry.
Just the second part of the question. Now, whether there is, can you quantify what is the effect of the social impact on valuation, either in positive side or in negative side, whatever way?
Well, basically, that's something on the development, really, because there are some standards for public accountancy, and that's when standards come to a really important and relevant place. You see, social value, it's a concept which is still under development, which basically encompasses social investment, and the idea would be to be able to measure social impact, which is the main and the most important consideration from a public service. You see, for example, the train services, which is a public service, and it should be considered as a public asset, because there are social benefits flowing from these assets to the community. So the idea could be to develop appropriate standards in order, as you said, to be able to measure them adequately. And that's when, again, a collaborative basis in order to be able to develop good standards for it would be absolutely important, particularly for those working for rural development programs and or NGOs and or with multilaterals, by providing assistance in terms of valuation for social impact. Important. It's important, though, for you to notice the difference between social within the ESG context, which is basically a criteria for values to consider, and social value. These two things are completely different, since whereas the first one is a criteria really for values to consider, social value is a concept which encompasses, as I said, social assets, social investments, and social benefits. So it's a bigger concept. Hope to have been able to answer your question.
Thank you, Xavier. Thanks a lot for sharing your perspectives. I know we are all in the midst of IBSC meeting. I'm also attending the International Valuation Standards meeting. All of us are there. Good to have you with us in this particular program. Thank you so much.
Good to see you again, and thank you very much, Dr. Gupta. It's always a pleasure to be able to share these experiences with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Mugisha Allen. He is from Uganda. May I request Mr. Mugisha Allen to please join the E-Charcha?
Mr. Mugisha, please, are you there? Can you kindly join and start your session?
May I request Mr. Mugisha Allen to please start the session? Okay, we will try to connect with him after some time.
Let's have another.
Now we have
next speaker. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Gopal Krishna Raju, a valuation professional from India. May I request Mr. Raju to please share your views? Mr. Gopal Krishna Raju.
Yeah, very good evening.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, sir.
Very good evening. Thank you very much. Dr. S.K. Gupta, MD of ICMAI RVO and other panel valuation professionals, and my dear fellow valuers across length and breadth of the country, and also special invitees to this program. So very warm good evening to one and all. At the outset, let me appreciate and thank the initiatives of ICMAI RVO and Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India also been very supportive to all the RVOs, especially being from 2018 onwards, being a regulated profession. This is a very important Tier 2 regulators activity, and very vibrantly done by almost every RVO, and ICMAI RVO needs a special mention. So every day we see new activities, and I'm actually very much surprised by the way the topics are chosen by ICMAI RVO, the nitty-gritties, nook and corner. So it is not a plain vanilla valuation topic they take. They do really fair valuation of the valuation topic, and they don't leave any area, be it regulatory side, be it the application side, reporting side, and also post-reporting. So it is not only a reporting perspective, because we have pre-reporting, pre-engagement the time, and also the post-engagement, how the regulator sees our report. And I must definitely mention the proactive role of Dr. S.K. Gupta here. And not only he heads this RVO, but also he writes article. I don't know from where he gets time to actually write so much information about this particular niche area. And I'm sure I actually feel proud and also take pride, because I'm a member of ICMAI RVO. Even though I deliver lectures across other RVOs also, I always feel at home whenever.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I address the members of ICMAI RVO. I must make a special mention here. When in 2018, RVOs, they started their activities. So many RVOs were hesitant whether to start a batch for SFA. I must appreciate ICMAI RVO was the first among all RVOs. Among all RVOs, they were the first to start an educational course, because for them everybody is new. For every RVO, it is a new train, a new bus, new route, a new road. So the journey is new, the vehicle is new, the destination is new. So and they were waiting for passengers. So the first batch of passengers, I belong to the first batch of passengers, and I must tell ICMAI that journey was very nice, and we reached the destination timely, safely. And today I am before you.
Very good, sir.
Yeah. Topic what has been chosen today is very relevant. It is valuation prospects. I wish each one of us, especially whether you have gone through the particular document of the Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India, where there is a report of the committee of experts to examine the need for a framework for regulation and development of valuation professionals. That particular document is a must read. I must say it is a must read for every valuation professionals from the beginning till the end. So we have two parts. The other part is the draft valuers bill, which every one of us are very eager for that particular bill part. But the first part, an extensive research has been done how our valuation profession has been anchored over a period of time, especially the need for valuers in various areas. See, this is one particular profession where we have a homogeneous, rather than having a homogeneous set of valuation professionals, we have heterogeneous set of valuation professionals. So this is the first speciality about this profession as such. And therefore, there is a need, and I will say a basic need and a fundamental requirement to go as a team and be a team player and also sometimes a team leader. So whether a land and building valuer or a plant and machinery valuer or a securities or financial asset valuer, who will take a lead is not the question. The question is the ultimate delivery of the valuation exercise, and there the need of coordination among the valuers is primary, and that is one speciality about this particular profession way forward. The second one, I repeat, there are emerging new areas that has been coming up, and it is not a binary valuation henceforth. Okay, go to a building, take a measurement, and then put it in a book, and then take a exercise, take a reference booklet, and what are the numbers you have got, multiply, and you will get some numbers. And equity valuation, we follow some process, put the beta, geta, risk-free rate, and put some model, put the numbers, and then you sprinkle the numbers in the spreadsheet. It will throw some enterprise value. So those are arithmetic. Now, the profession over a period of time from arithmetic has now gone to a different dimension today. Today, if I must tell one example here, all these years, SEBI as the capital market regulator, you give a prospectus to them, they will do the vetting of prospectus. So what is vetting till date? We don't have a definition even in the SEBI regulations also, but the SEBI will do the vetting. Recently only SEBI has, I must say, it is a good sign that Securities and Exchange Board of India is now asking the basis for arriving at a price. Actually, that is the terminology used in the regulation also. So any SEBI regulation you go through, it says the company should come out with the basis for the price what they offer. So they go for a valuation and they get a valuation report and they append or attach that report. And many times reports are not appended, but only the values are given. And if asked for, they say, no, we have got a report from so and so. They are a merchant banker, they are a SEBI empaneled valuers, or they are a registered valuer. They are section 34AB of the Wealth Tax Act valuer. So all this stuff. Now, recently, there is a company called Farm Easy, where when they went for an IPO, the first time I must appreciate the regulator. And now the regulators have, so you have today multiple regulators. So that is the challenge actually, I will say. We have heterogeneous type of valuers in our profession. We also have multiple regulators. So we can even call them as heterogeneous regulators. Now, one view of looking at this heterogeneous or multiple regulators is, oh, why multiple regulators? This is one way, but the perspective of valuation differs. So I must really appreciate Dr. Gupta here for bringing that word called perspective. Because from a Reserve Bank of India perspective, the FEMA, the Foreign Exchange Management Act valuation, the perspective is different. We valuers, we must understand one thing very clear. Every engagement, the starting point is very crucial and critical. It is not a valuation engagement. It is the purpose that matters a lot. The purpose will change the contour, will change the direction, will change where the lighthouse should put the light, should direct the light. So that will change the entire valuation exercise. The perspective will change. So for example, the valuation is for a transaction purpose. That means not for a compliance or for a regulation requirement, or there is a mandatory the clause under a particular act or a rule which mandates the valuation has to be done. No, I am actually going for a business expansion. So there is a new investor is coming, or the existing investor, he wants to dilute or he wants to go out. So the existing shareholders, they want to buy, or he wants to give it to somebody else. So there is no requirement under any law for valuation. So we must understand one thing very clear, that government has to regulate, government has to regulate, government has to regulate. Government will regulate where regulation is required. I repeat once again, my fellow valuers, government will regulate where there is a need to regulate. Where there is no need to regulate, government need not regulate. So that is the place called transaction. And a transaction is purely between two individual parties. Courts cannot interfere here, but valuers can interfere. And valuers value decides, determines, and maybe it closes that particular deal. So for people to sit on a particular table and to negotiate, they need some number. They cannot start from zero. Okay, so whenever a deal has to happen, somewhere the starting point should be there. That trigger point, so it can be X, it can be 30 crores, it can be 5 crores, it can be 300 crores. It cannot start from zero. It cannot start from one. So that starting point, so we call it as in mathematical terms, we say coordinates, we say 0, 0 is the starting. So changing the coordinate, changing the axis from 0 to a particular place, that perspective is brought out by valuer. So that is very critical, I will say, because from there, it is not necessary that whatever the valuer gives the value, that only deal should complete. No, it is not so. See, the problem with our, because I can only say, because I am a member of all the 3 institutes, so I will take my brothers and sisters of chartered accountants, cost accountants, and company secretary together with me. So we have a problem with the CA, CS, and CMS, because we have been only taught, cultured, and we have been groomed where to look back and only see, not to look forward. Look back, see the past transactions, see the invoice, see the document, see this, it should match, reconcile. In valuation, nothing like that. We only go by perspectives. We only go by our, I will say, intuition. So there is a very funny way of saying, if you don't have an intuition, then go to a tuition. So then only you will know what intuition is. So you should have that, that purpose should be very clear. And to understand the purpose, we need to be very clear, not in valuation, because valuation is only an arithmetic exercise, which is only in the entire valuation report, the valuation part is only 5%. But the 95% is not valuation. The 95% is understanding the purpose, understanding the business, understanding the data from where we need to, this guy is internal. guy. The internal, for example, investor can be two types of investors. One investor can be the relatives, and another investor can be an outsider. Now, if an outsider is coming inside, I cannot dilute more. So if I cannot dilute more, I should dilute less, means price per share should be more. So when you divide by the price per share, number of shares will be less. So valuation should be high. So I'll go by income approach, DCF, GCF, the methods and all I'm not going to discuss. The perspective changes. Now, if the buyer is internal, relative, wife, husband, brother-in-law, mother-in-law, we should be very happy if we get such a mother-in-law or father-in-law, blessed only, because when they are investing money in our company. Okay. So then when the relatives are investing, so then again, there will be a requirement to actually, now the regulatory requirement is one side, and maybe as a transaction, even though they are related, we need to tell them that there is some, it is not 10 rupees face value, maybe it is some higher figure. So I'll go by a net asset value. So when net asset value means the value will be less, then the dilution will be more because they are an internal person. So the perspective changes the valuation per se. So which is very interesting. So I must thank the Institute of Cost Accountants, especially the ICMAI RVO formation as such, because I don't know, the IBBI called all the three institutes and gave a mandate that you must form a RVO. So all three RVOs, I mean all three institutes, they took this as a very important step and an RVO was formed. And one of the main role of an RVO is, to keep the members of RVO abreast, up to date.
Yeah.
And my sincere wishes and appreciations to Dr. S.K. Gupta.
Yes.
Sir, continue this good work.
Thank you, sir.
My support will be there always. You. And please go ahead. And any questions from the participants I want to take before I hand over the session.
So we'll come back to you, sir. After the next speaker, if there are any questions, we'll come back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. May I request Mr. Mugisha Allen to please join the session? Okay, now it is time for open house session. I request Dr. S.K. Gupta to please take the session. Dr. S.K. Gupta, sir.
You are on mute, sir. You are on mute.
Sorry. Thank you. Welcome all the participants. In case you want to make any comment, any observation, any question to any one of the participants, you're most welcome, sir. Madam. Any observations arising out of today's deliberations, any comment that you would like to offer, maybe your own perspective on the subject, why not? Most welcome.
Good evening, Dr. Gupta. This is Alok Kaushik.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sir, just a few observations and feedback.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So, excellent session, and my compliments to you and the team.
Thank you, sir.
I think most of the all the valuers who talked about the speakers, respected speakers. So the gist was about the research part, so which goes into valuation. So the primary research as well as the secondary research, it's extremely important. So primary research, when you talk to the asset owner, asset operators, secondary research, when you read about the asset, the industry. So all these things are extremely important. And I think it was well covered in today's session.
You.
And once again, my compliments to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. There is a question. In any case, can we give face value as fair value?
Oh, wow. Good question. Actually. If face value is your fair value,
yeah,
then there is no need for valuation.
I know. Yeah. Great answer. Yeah. Any more comments, please? Any more observations? Most welcome. Any one of the participants, please.
Mr. Allen has joined the session. May I request Mr. Mugisha Allen to please share your views, sir?
Yes, so thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to apologize. I've had the network connectivity. And I think for that reason, I'll keep my video up. Such that I can see advanced video. So, can everyone hear me, please? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Dr. Gupta, can you hear me?
Sir, your voice is not coming, and Gupta sir, you are on mute.
Alan, there is a lot of echo and your voice is breaking.
Let me try and find a suitable place. I'm going to keep my video off just to make sure that maybe the bandwidth is safe. So thank you very much, ICMAI. Thank you for the ICMAI for the good work you're doing, and thank you for my name is Alan Kugusha.
Your voice is breaking, not clear. Alan, your voice is breaking and it's not clear.
Give me a moment. Let me try and find a suitable place. Just
Alan, can you try once again? Try and get on the audio, please.
is this better, Dr. Gupta? Can you hear me?
No, not better. Your voice is still breaking, not audible.
Sir, you may please carry on with open house session.
Okay, I think he's tuning in, joining in from Uganda. He's having some problem, not able to be clear on the audio, this thing. Anyway, we'll have him next time in one of our other programs. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alan. So any more observations, any comments, please? Otherwise, it's time to close the session. We really had a good session from all the panelists, different perspectives and different ideas which were thrown open by them. I think there's some food for thought for all of us arising out of these deliberations that we had today. Thank you so much for joining us, and keep us encouraging all the time by joining our programs very, very frequently. And also the learned panelists who spoke today and who shared their perspective. Thank you so much for joining us. And also thanks to IBBI for supporting this particular program, and especially to Mr. Deepak Rao, General Manager, IBBI, and Mr. Deeptanshu, who helped us craft this program and deliver it to you all the participants. Thank you so much from the viewpoint of ICMAI RBO. Thank you so much for joining in. Good evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. It was a pleasure. Thank you, fellow participants and delegates. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.